Hi everyone, welcome to this week's short attention span webinar. Kelly, how common is it that a customer would say, well, you know, we don't buy strictly on price, but actually they do?
Yeah, I think it's probably one of the more common things. It's what a lot of my clients are telling me. So,
But no one's going to come out and say, well, I just got to let you know that we buy strictly on price, we're bottom feeders.
right, no.
They might say we get 3 bids,
Mm-hmm.
right? But they might also say we're not always going to go with the lowest bid,
Mm-hmm.
but they do.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So,
Yeah.
and there's reasons for that, right? They might see you as a commodity. They might think, yeah, you know, print, packaging, label, signage, whatever you're into, I can get that anywhere. I've got a list of people. I got voicemails. My voicemail button is blinking with people that want to see me. I can replace you in a heartbeat, right? So the first thing that we need to do is to kind of prove it to them, right? And one of the things we pointed out here is to research their sales philosophy. Kelly, what's their sales philosophy and how does that relate to their buying philosophy?
Well, so their selling philosophy is how they represent themselves in their marketplace. So how they communicate about their products and services to their customers. So, you know, you can pick up on this by looking at their website and any of maybe their radio ads or TV ads, things like that, or how are they coming across as, crazy Larrys with the lowest price in town? Or are they, we are the premier, most, they've got a 400-year history and they're all about quality and service. So you kind of want to take a look at that and believe that fundamentally the two would match each other. So if they sell based on quality and service and things like that, that they would buy on that as well. But what we're finding, Bill, is that that's not necessarily always the case. That more often than not, people, especially, trained purchasing people, have kind of this knee-jerk reaction to try to always drive the prices down. And so I think that one of our challenges, or our big challenge, is to kind of uncover that and ask a lot of really good questions to get to the heart of it, to make sure that we can still play in that space, that we can still, be a provider without being the lowest cost.
Yeah, and I think if you can, the research on the selling philosophy, I think, is critical to this, because you're holding up a mirror, essentially, and saying, listen, let me quote your mission statement. Okay, here are some great quotes, some testimonials that are on your website. Clearly, you're not all about price, and yet you're buying on price. Mm-hmm. I understand that it's your job to get the lowest price, but there's also that value thing, as your website points out. So
right.
you really can use someone's words against them. You can use their...
Well, and it's really about those impact questions too. Like what kind of impact does it have on your business if the vendor that you're choosing is not necessarily the best one for you in the big picture?
Okay.
So again, it's that kind of those what ifs. What if another vendor like myself had other things to offer you, intangible things that ultimately would benefit you on a greater scale, but you've chosen to buy from the cheapest guy, and you're missing out on all these things, all these ideas that I bring to the table, and all these ways, because again, here you want to go to, a lot of my customers used to be in your situation. I've dealt with this for years and years, and I've dealt with a lot of companies who used to buy based on buying the lowest price. But when they met me and when we started working together, they realized that there's a lot of benefits and a lot of advantages to working with somebody with my expertise and all of, your whole shop's expertise. And so they actually made a strategic decision to use me instead. I mean, there's a number of different ways you can, kind of go about that.
Okay, and you might also want to talk about times when it hasn't worked out. Right? I want to can you give me an example of when you bought on price, but you know what? It didn't turn out to be the best purchase decision for us, and you had to go back to somebody else. So has that happened? Everything that you can do to point out that, there are some things that, you buy on price. You just do. Mm-hmm. But if there's a problem, if this is a critical document, and it's a time-sensitive document, and you're going on price, then you're going to get what you get, and I hope it works out for you. Because if it doesn't, there's not enough time to do the job properly at regardless of price. So it might be you point out that there are some things that you go on price and some things that you simply don't.
Well, and there's also this conversation happens differently when you're just trying to get your foot in the door with a new prospect that you've quoted a couple of times versus a customer that you've had for a long time. It's almost like you're dealing with a little bit of a different objection either way. Because if you're unproven too and your prices are higher, you have a different battle to fight than when you're the incumbent vendor and your prices are higher.
Right.
You see what I mean? So, there again, when you're the new guy on the block and you're trying to get your foot in the door with somebody, this is where the anecdotal, telling stories about how you've managed, to deal with situations very similar to this, and all about your again, if you're going to talk about reliability and stuff like that, you've got to be able to back it up. Because at the end of the day, it's really, I can tell you how great I am and all my great ideas, and I can tell you all this stuff, but in order for you to know that for yourself, you actually have to give me a job. We actually have to do a job together.
Right.
And if I'm going to be 7% higher or 12% higher, we have to work through that. So that's where, again, some of those questions like, well, if price weren't on the table, if price wasn't an issue, how would you make your decision?
I would think, Kelly, that the other thing that you can do is to bring in some samples of what they're buying. If you can grab some samples and then get something else that you've produced that is of top quality, pull those two up. Is this really okay? Because if you're going on low bid, it's like I've told this story before. My brother and I were down in Cape Cod, and he's in the label business. And we're in a supermarket, and he picked off this candle that had a label on it. He's scratching it very lightly with his thumb, and it's just coming apart. It's flaking and everything else. And I pointed out to him, I said, when there's shabby quality on the outside, people wonder about the quality on the inside. So they might be going low bid on the packaging, the print, whatever. It's a reflection of your company.
Right.
And if the quality is bad on what they're doing right now, for gosh sakes, bring it up, point it out.
Yeah, that's exactly that impact question. That's exactly right.
All right. Well, listen, there's some tips for getting around that. Kelly, thanks for your thoughts this week.
Thanks, Bill.
And we will talk to you all again on another short attention span webinar. Kelly will still have her white shirt on, but I'll be changing because we'll write all new stuff for you.
The uniform.
The uniform, that's right. That's right. All right, Kelly, thanks. We'll talk next week.
Thanks, Bill.
Bye.